Okay, class, we're about to start section 10.5, volume. It says objectives. Use volume formulas to compute the volumes of three-dimensional figures and solve applied problems. Compute the surface area of a three-dimensional figure. Formulas for volume. Volume refers to amount of space occupied by a solid object. The volume of a figure is usually measured in cubic units. The volume of a three-dimensional object is the number of cubic units it takes to fill the interior of that object. Now, volumes of box-like shapes, rectangular solid. The easiest figures to measure volume are rectangular solids. All of the angles in a rectangular solid are 90 degrees. The volume of a rectangular solid V is the product of its length L, its width W, and its height H. So we have the volume is equal to length times width times height. Now the cube, the volume of a cube V is the product of its length, its width, and its height. The volume is equal to side times side times side. It's similar somewhat to a square where all sides are equal to each other. So we would have side to the third power. Okay, now it says find the volume of the rectangular solid. Now remember, volume is length times width times height. The length is 12, the width is 9, and the height is 7. So we multiplied all this together. This will give us 756 cubic inches. Now, solving a volume problem. You are about to begin work on a swimming pool in your yard. The first step is to have a hole dug that is 90 feet long, 60 feet wide, and 6 feet deep. You will use a truck that can carry 10 cubic yards of dirt and charges $12 per load. How much will it cost you to have all the dirt hauled away? Okay, so we will do the volume. We know we will have 90 times 60 times 6. This will give us, let's take this calculator, 90 times 60 times 6. That'll be 32,400. And that would be cubic feet. Now, it says here that you could carry away 10 cubic yards and you charge $12 per load. So you need to first, actually we need to change this from cubic feet to yards. Now we know that 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. Now if we want to do cubic yards, we will cube both sides here. So then that means it's 27 cubic feet is equal to 1 cubic yard. So we would have to take this value here and divide it by 27 cubic feet to get it to be a yard. Now, let me do this more mathematical, or as I should say, show it more mathematically sound. What we need to do here, we need to change these units. So again, it takes 27 cubic feet to equal 1 cubic yard. So we're doing dimensional analysis here. The cubic feet will simplify out. You had 32,400 divided by 27, and this is cubic yards. So we would take our calculator. We would take 32,400 and divide it by 27, and that gives us 1,200. So this will give us 1,200 cubic yards. Now they tell us we can haul away 10 cubic yards, so we'll divide by 10 cubic yards, and this will give us 120 trips. So we will have to take 120 times 12, which will give us $1,440. And that is your final answer. Now, example. It says how much dirt is in a hole 6 feet deep, 12 feet across, and 15 feet long. So said another way, how much dirt is removed to make a hole 6 feet deep, 12 feet across, and 15 feet long? So it's basically the same thing we just did here. We'll take our volume, we add length, width, and height. So we will multiply this. This will give us 1,080. So it'll be 1,080 cubic feet. And then it says here, what would be the cost to remove the dirt if each load of 10 cubic yards costs $25? Now remember, we did cubic yards already. It takes 27 cubic feet to equal 1 cubic yard. So put this over 1. Actually, I should have done this down here, because this is the answer to A. So B, I would take this 1,080 cubic feet and change that to cubic yards. Cubic feet will simplify out, and we have 1,080 over 27 cubic yards. So we'll divide 1,080 divided by 27, and that gives us 40. So that gives us 40 cubic yards. Now they tell us that we can remove each load by 10 cubic yards. So we'll divide by 10 cubic yards. That would mean that we would have to do 4 trips, and we have to multiply this by $25. So it'll be an even $100. Now, we go down here to pyramids. Pyramid. Geometry, a polyhedron of which one face of a polygon and the other faces are triangles with a common vertex. The volume of a pyramid is 1/3 of the area of the base times the height, which we have here. So it says find the volume of the rectangular pyramid. So we have volume is equal to 1/3 times the base times the height, with the base being 8 and the height being 4. We have the volume is equal to, we have 1/3 times 8 times 4. We'll put ones under the 8 and 4. That will give us 32 over 3. So our volume is equal to, okay, there's one little change I need to make here. When I said the base, that capital B, I have to go back and change one thing. Matter of fact, change all of this here. Okay, that capital B base, and I'll just do this here. Okay, so it's supposed to be base times height. This base means you take the area of this base here. So 8 times 6, we know length times width, 8 times 6 is 48. So that base is 48. The height is still 4. So we know when we put this in our calculator, that will give us 24 cubic yards. Now that was a minor mistake that I made, but this base here, you must take the area of the base of this pyramid, which would be length times width. 8 times 6 is 48. That's how I got the 48, and then multiply by the height. Now, it says example. The Trans-American Tower in San Francisco is a pyramid with a square base. It is 256 meters tall, and each side of the square base is 52 meters long. Find its volume. Remember, the volume is 1/3 base times height. The volume is 1/3. Now remember, each side is 52 meters long. So our base is 52 times 52, because that's length times width. So we would do 52 times 52, and that gives us 2,704. Now that is our base. Now our height, we were told here, is 256. Now we will multiply all of this using our calculator. So we would take our 2,704 times 256, which would give us 692,224, and divide it by 3. Now if you notice here, we have a repeating decimal. So what we would need to do here is we need to round it. We could round it to 2 decimal places. So it'd be 230,744.33 if we round it. So this is the volume. And it's in meters, so it's cubic meters. And that is the final answer for that problem. Now we come here to our next example. It says, what is the volume of the Great Pyramid of Egypt? The base is a square with size 755.5 feet. The height is now 450 feet. It was originally 485 feet. So we have the volume is equal to 1/3. Now remember the base, since this is a square bottom, we would take 755.5 times 755.5. Which will give us 570,780.25. Now what I want you all to do, I want you to write that value here. So, let me move this down a little bit. I'm trying to remember this. So it's 570,780.25. Okay, that's the base. And then the height is 450. And these are quite large numbers. So now we put all these over 1. And then we can multiply this in our calculator. So we would take this and multiply by 450 and then divide this by 3. And it gives us, it looked like 8 million, it's 85,617,037.5. So I'm going to take a little time writing this. So it's supposed to be 856,170,37.5. And this is cubic feet. This is the volume. Okay, now cylinders. The volume of a cylinder is the area of the base times the height, where the base is pi radius squared. Now remember the base, we know pi radius squared is the area of a circle. So it's pi radius squared times the height. So it says, what is the volume of a cylinder with radius 5 feet and a height of 10 feet? So we have volume is equal to pi times, they told us the radius is 5 feet. So that would be 5 squared and a height of 10. Now we know 5 squared is 25. And then times 10. 25 times 10 is 250. Now the exact answer would be 250 pi, and it would be cubic feet. Now if we want an approximate answer, well, this could be one of our answers as exact. An approximate answer, we could take 250 times 3.14, and that'll give us approximately 785 cubic feet. Okay, now we go on to the next problem. Now it says find the volume of the cylinder with diameter 20 yards and height 9 yards. Now remember, we need the radius, and we know the radius is half the diameter. So we will be using this as 10 yards. So we have the volume is equal to pi times the radius is 10 squared times the height, which is 9. Now we know 10 squared is 100 times 9 is 900. So this would be 900 pi, and that would be cubic yards. Now we need the exact answer. So we'll take 900 times 3.14, which would give us